الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير حج محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر أمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. كيف حالكم جميعا يا أيها الإخوة وأخوات. Today's topic بإذن الله تبارك وتعالى will be known as رأس أسباب القتل الغضب, and that is the leading cause for murder. The leading cause for murder is al-ghadab, is anger. The leading cause, from the causes, from the things that drove one to murder, that drove someone to kill another. At the top of it is murder. There are many asbab, there are many means for leading to murder, such as jealousy, such as pride, such as money, such as love, etc. There are many things that drive a person to commit murder. And being as though we're in the time or the climate that we are in, where it caused the President of the United States to comment on the state of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where bad things, as he's quoted, are happening in Philadelphia. We are losing a lot of individuals due to murder. So we want to, inshallah ta'ala, with this talk, give some understanding to one of the leading things that leads or drives an individual to kill. We'll be using the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which was a prophetic advice given from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to a rajul, a companion who came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said from the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said that a man, he said that a man, he said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, give me some advice, advise me. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said to the man, La taghdab. And this hadith is collected by Bukhari. He said to the man, do not become angry. Angry is an emotion which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to each every human being. From Bani Adam, they have the ability to become angry. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ told this man, La taghdab. We'll be using the commentary of Sheikh Salih Ali Sheikh Hafidhullah Ta'ala, where he explained tremendously some of the things that we see. And there's no doubt, due to anger, there are many lives that have been ruined, families who have been devastated. There has been abuse after abuse, whether verbally or physically, domestic violence, all trickle down to ghadab, anger. All trickle down to anger. In a moment, your aql can become covered. And that moment, your aql, you can lose your reasoning at the sight of anger. So anger is not something that you tiptoe around. And many of the youth today, they don't understand any of the means or how to cope with their anger. They're not taught how to cope with anger, how to deal with anger. In Islam, alhamdulillah, we have a method to help us restrain and repel our anger. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. So, no doubt, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on numerous occasions, have given many of the companions different advice. When they come to him seeking counsel or seeking some advice, he would give them different answers for different individuals that tailor-made or fit to their situation and circumstance. So no doubt this particular man who came to the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ knew of this man. So he told that man, La taghdab, do not become angry. Tayyib. So this here, when the man said to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, advise me, then this wahiyya that the man was looking for, which shows us that we should be individuals who seek out counsel. But the youth of today have cut themselves off. They have cut themselves off from seeking the advice that would benefit them. They have cut themselves off from connecting, and they have filled their minds and their thoughts with many things which is unhealthy for them to move forward. So forth, just like you and I. We have realized that a lot of times, or oftentimes, how many of us have been angry to the point that have caused divorce? How many of us have been angry to the point that we have lost our temper, our control? You understand? Because self-control, inshallah ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ gives us a tremendous point on what self-control means. But we lose that when we give into anger. And many of us are suffering from anger and anger issues. And many of us do not know the prophetic medicine or the prophetic advice to deal with that anger. No doubt, the man was seeking some type of what? To be guided to some type of higher, some good. He wanted the Prophet to give him the good. In other words, he was saying, direct me to a word that is specific to me that will help me ascertain some good. All right? That which would be good for me in my life. That which would be good for me in my living. That which will go on my scales. Direct me, ya Rasulullah. So the Prophet ﷺ told this man, La taqdab, do not cry anger. فَدَلَ أَنَّ مَنْ تُلِبْتَ مِنْهُ وَخُيّْ. This indicates that he what? That he was seeking from him some advice. فَإِنَّهُ يَجْتَهَدَ فِي الْوَصِيَّةِ جَامِيَةً. And he was striving to get a comprehensive advice. وَفِيمَا يَحْتَاجُهُ مُوصَى لَهُ. In that which the person who was seeking this advice needed. Okay? And that, in other words, that the person is not left off or doored away from any answer. And the Sheikh, he said, this is something beneficial for the scholar or for the teacher, that he is aware of the person or the student or the person who's coming to him seeking counsel, that he has to be aware when he gives the advice that the advice is applicable, that the advice is applicable. So understanding the situation or the mas'ala is good. Also, this is something that can be seen for the one who cultivates, that he be aware of the prophetic advice and the advice of the people of knowledge. So that the person can give advice when he is sought from him. He can give the advice similar to how the Messenger of Allah applied that advice. So the Prophet he says, La taqdab. This considered two levels, the Sheikh said. The first of the level is when those means come to you, all right, from the illnesses that cause a person to be angry, all right. And he says that that person should do what? That number one, the person should look at those remedies that come to help you wipe away that anger. And he says here, like repelling or restraining oneself when one is in a state of rage or in a state of anger. And this is something that is seen in the verse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala where he says, وَالْكَاذِمِينَ الْغَيْظِ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. In Surah Al Imran, Allah Jalla wa Ala, he says, those, describing the characteristics of the believers, those who have a connection with their Creator. I want to stop here. And I want to reiterate something here. We're dealing in a time where the youth are proud to call themselves demons. The music is filled with that. The environment. Think of the words that we label ourselves: savages, all right? Beasts, demons. Just think about the mindset that picture in. A person who believes that he or she is a demon. And there's no positive connotations associated with the word demon. Under no circumstances is it anything positive that can come out of dealing with a word demon. And these are the mind state of the youth. These are the mind state that there are demons, there are savages, that we live in environments where these type of names or descriptions that we give ourselves on a daily basis, and we think it doesn't play a role in our psychology, or it doesn't play a role in our outlook and our perspective and how we deal with things. If an individual is telling you that I live in hell, this is my state of hell, I've been raised amongst this and amongst that, and this is where I'm at. And the only reason why that person consider that where they live at is hell is because the opportunities that he or she may not be aware of, or they have not had the opportunity to do as they have convinced themselves to do better. And that these circumstances, what we see as downtrodden, look where we live at, we live here, they are cut off spiritually. So when you look at this verse, you see this verse and you see Allah says, وَكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ. They repress their anger. Their anger is that which is repressed or restrained. وَعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. And they pardon the people. Not in today's time. This is talking about individuals have a connection with their Creator, who know their purpose and who want to fulfill the purpose which they live. This is not talking about individuals who don't understand their purpose, who feel that they are cut off in one form or another from their Creator. So they look at it as if I pardon a person, I lose my life the next day. It's a moment of weakness. It's seen as a sign of weakness. You understand? To be quote unquote soft, to allow an individual to have a pass. I'm not giving him a pass. I'm not giving her a pass. I have to handle my situation now. And this is what you're dealing with. So this type of chaos that you see you're dealing with, you have to understand where it comes from. What's the root of that chaos? Where is it at? Allah Jalla wa Ala, He's talking to believers when He says this. So that's why the Shaykh, he says, وَكَذْمُ غَيْبٍ صِفَاتَ عِبَادِ اللَّهِ مُؤْمِنِينَ مُحْسِنِينَ. That the repelling or the restressing or the restraining of the anger, it is from the characteristics of the believing servants, those good believing servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we're not talking about believing servants. We're talking about youth who think that the only way to solve a problem is to eliminate someone, regardless of the life that it costs, the family that is devastated due to it, regardless their life and everything that is uproar, that's upsettled from that, that's removed. Nah, they ain't thinking about that. They're thinking about one thing. You understand? That anger had went to an all-type level, that their pride has stepped in the way, their ego have stepped in the way, and they cannot let it slide. And revenge is one of those bad to murder as well. And we see that a lot of, if you look at the Prophet Sirah, you will see that when he came to the Khazraj and the Aus, you see that they was battling for over 100 years. Because one tribe member dies, and then they sought revenge, and they kill one, and then they sought revenge. And it's something that is hard to really put out. Because when you lose someone and someone takes someone away from you, what do you think you're going to do? You're angry. So something has to happen. So you're talking about youth who saying, okay, I am going out here to score. This is how they refer to murder. I'm scoring. I'm going to get one up on the op, quote unquote. I'm going to get one up more. So if we lost 4 people, all right, my job is to make sure you lost more than the 4 that we lost. So if we lost 4, I need to double those numbers, and you lose 8. So we're scoring. And you talking about connecting with something like this? You talking about connecting with something such as this, that their mindset is just in this state where they're cut themselves off from any type of sign of that which is beneficial for them. He brings another hadith. He brings a hadith for Sahih that the Prophet said, "Man kadhama ghayzan wa huwa qadirun ala an yunfidhahu." Pay attention to this hadith; it's tremendous. The Prophet said, "Whoever restrained their anger while having the ability to carry it out, while having the ability to execute it. You understand? All right, individual get you to that point. You already know that you know you can take care of the circumstance. You can do what needs to be done, if that's so to speak. But you control yourself in this moment. The Prophet ﷺ said in another hadith collected by Bukhari wa Muslim. He said, "Laysa shadid with sur'ah," that the strong individual is not the one who wrestles. Strength is not there. That's not the strong individual. The shadid, the one who is strong, the one who has strength, is not seen in the fact that he or she can wrestle. Okay, that this person can actually overcome someone else. The Prophet ﷺ said, "La." He says, "Ash-shadidu alladhi yamliku nafsahu 'inda al-ghadab." Pay attention to what the Prophet ﷺ said. That the strong one is the one who has the ability to control himself at the time of what? Of anger. He can control himself at the time of anger. That's where self-control comes in. That's when you can decide to allow your reason to think smarter than your emotion when your blood is boiling. When you are thinking of a way of getting rid of the problem, which create more problems because it never gets rid of the problem. You took a life, now your life is on violence. Someone is seeking you out to take you. That's just the way it goes. Yeah, today you a killer. Yeah, so-and-so killed so-and-so. So the street is buzzing. You a killer. They know you'll bust your gun, right? And this is how you think. So you can kill 2, 4, 5 people and everybody like, yeah, they'll mess with him, this, and that. But your day is coming. It's just a time. Your day is coming. And then your number going to be called up and someone outs you out because those loved ones that you took, they're on your heels as well. You're not that strong. There have not been one man that walked the earth who been immortal. I haven't seen one. There is none. Whether you want to go scientifically, you want to go whatever you want to case you want to, there's no proven case that there has been one human being that was immortal, let alone bulletproof, let alone killing proof. That no one can kill. This stuff don't make sense. Today you got one, tomorrow you get got. That's just the way it goes. But they're not thinking like that. They're not even on this type of pattern. They are in a state of rage. And they are in a state of rage and don't even understand where the rage is coming from. Is it coming from within? Is it coming from without? What is it? This is a person that's not in touch with reality. This is a person who has lost the truth of reality, and you live amongst that. So it might have been a joke, watching the debate between the candidates and seeing how they made a debacle or a spectacle. But it's true, bad things are happening in Philadelphia. 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 14-year-olds being killed. Muslims who are losing sons, left and right, nephews, cousins. You do the math. Over what? At the end of the day, the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned that it's going to come a time that the person who kills doesn't know why he's killing, or the person who was maqtul don't even know why he was slain. Just kill. 3 janazas myself that I did personally for my cousins, all which was murders. One cousin was told that by the Chinese store to come out, and one cousin was told by the Chinese store to come out, and what happened? They killed him. Just like that. They killed him just like that. And what you think happened? You understand? They killed him just like that. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to realize the problem. And the problem is anger. And if we don't start teaching these people how to repress their anger, how to repress their anger, it won't happen. So the issue is anger. The Prophet ﷺ said in this hadith, whoever represses their anger while he is able or capable of executing it, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will call this individual out to be at the head of the creation on Yawm al-Qiyamah. To be at the what? The head of the creation on Yawm al-Qiyamah. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is telling us something tremendous here. That the reward for controlling yourself while in a fit of rage is that you will be at the head of the creation on Yawm al-Qiyamah. You will be at the head of creation on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Go upstairs, please. You will be at the head of the creation on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Then he continues. He said, حتى يخيره الله من الحور عين ما شاء. Just go upstairs. Are you get it and go upstairs, please? So he says. So he says here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will select for him يخيره من الحور عين ما شاء, from the purified mates. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will select for him from the purified mates whoever he wills or likes. This hadith is collected by Abu Dawood and At-Tirmidhi with Ibn Majah. Tremendous hadith. So we see that the reward for restraining yourself or repelling your anger, we see that the reward of it, as well as it is from those praiseworthy attributes that the believers or anyone can actually adorn themselves with. He says, وَيَأْتِي تَفْصِيلُ الْكَلَامَ عَلَى كُونِهِ مِنَ الصِّفَاتِ مَحْمُودًا. He says later on, he will talk about in detail more about these praiseworthy qualities or attributes, inshallah. He says the second level. So the first level of la taghdab, we just talked about that. That's repressing your anger. These are remedies. These are coping mechanisms to help you repress your anger, to deal with your anger. Anger management at its best from the Quran and the Sunnah. And this is something I want to tell people. Just because you haven't come across it, just because you haven't read it, you have not read every Islamic book out there, you have read every hadith that's authentic out there, you have not read everything, it doesn't mean Islam didn't come with it. This is something that people really have to start understanding. Just because you didn't come across it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And it doesn't mean it wasn't talked about or wasn't dealt with. Don't allow yourself to think that Islam has not addressed situation. If that was the case, then the book of Allah would be contradiction. It would be contradiction in the book of Allah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us over in the Quran, Allah said, indeed, we have explained in detail in this Quran. So, I mean, that'll be a contradiction. If he's telling you he have explained everything, that the Quran is tibyan li kulli shay, is an explanation for all things, then how can you believe for some reason that Islam didn't cover it? No, you didn't come across it. But doesn't mean Islam didn't cover it. We have to understand that this is important to understand, especially in today's time where secular knowledge is being on the rise and many people are being impressed by secular liberalism, etc., and they thinking this is the way to go. That's not the way to go. There's nothing going to be greater than faith. There's no agent greater than faith. There's nothing stronger than that. Tayyip, he says here, لا تسعى فيما يقطع لأن متقرر أن وسائل تؤدي إلى غايات. إذا كنت تعلم أن هذا شيء يؤدي بك إلى غاية تطلبك. You're really disturbing me. I gave you everything you want. You're disturbing me. Give it to me. Thank you. Yes, please. Okay. Thank you. Come on. No, I can't teach you right now because I'm doing something right now. Move. Can you go upstairs, please? Thank you. Now, so the Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned the second level. The Shaykh has mentioned the second level is that don't allow yourself to give into those means or those things which will cause you to be angry. All right. If you know that there is something that can cause you to be angry, that drive you to that point, then don't give into those means. لهذا كان كثير من السلف يمدحون التغافل. He said, for this reason, many of the Salaf, they used to praise negligence. I wouldn't say negligence. I would say tagaful is being neglect, but the ability of not really paying attention to most things, they will praise this. As is mentioned by Uthman ibn Za'idah, he said, Al-Afiyah asharatu al-jaza'in. He says that Al-Afiyah, okay, it is of 10 parts. It consists of 10 parts. Tis'atun minha fi tagaful, and 9 parts from that is under tagaful. فحدث الإمام أحمد بذلك, and Imam Ahmed has narrated a hadith concerning that. He says, Al-Afiyah asharatu al-jaza'in kullaha fi tagaful. Right? And إحقاق أمور لآكلها في كل شيء هذا غير ممكن. All right? And that in regards to the right of all of your affairs and to the ending in everything, then this is not possible. Because the soul sometimes it would given naturally to be negligent. Sometimes it would given to do things of ample. وَعِنْدَهَا مَا عِنْدَهَا. It has this ability. So sometimes you might find yourself doing good. Sometimes you might find yourself being a little bit lazy, lackadaisical. Sometimes you might find yourself energetic. This is possible. He says, فتغافل المرء عما يحدث له غضب ويحدث له ما لا يرضي من أبواب خير عظيمة. So if a person practices taghaful, whereas it doesn't cause this person to give into his anger or to that which ما لا يرضي, what doesn't please him, then this is from the tremendous affairs or avenues of good. وكذلك تغافل عن الإساءة. Likewise, having taghaful from doing bad things. تغافل عن الكلام فيما لا يحمل. Or having taghaful in regards to speaking concerning those things which is not praiseworthy. وتغافل عن بعض التصرفات بأدم متابعتها والحقوق إلى آخر ذلك. So we know that taghaful is something that can be considered as praiseworthy. أمر محمود وهو مبني عادة على نحي عن التحسس. All right, tajassus. All right, and it is something that is based off the prohibition from spying and so forth. He says, the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تغضب أي لا تدخل في وسائل الغضب عن وعيها. He was telling this man, don't enter any of the means that will cause you to be angry. All right, you become angry over something, don't allow it to escalate. So you have to immediately check yourself the moment you become angry. The moment you become angry, that's whether you're a wife, husband, whatever. How many times have you seen a domestic case where the wife then stabbed the husband? Or the husband then hit his wife crazy in a fit of rage? How many divorces you have seen taking place? How many people you have seen lost their lives the moment they are cool, but in that moment or that incident it took. So you have to be really on guard at the time when you are angry, because at that moment is the moment where reason step outside of the door. And this is why some of the fuqaha, they said that when it comes to a divorce that is declared when a person is so angry that they black out, then it's not considered to be sound. Why? Because this person really has lost reason at that point. This person has lost reason. And that's the connection there when you seeing someone disregard life at a level like that. Someone comes along and disregards life. You understand? Someone comes along and disregards another person's life, basically like it's nothing. There's no way in the world you can actually convince a person that you are appreciative of your own life if you disregard the life of another. You have to understand that. That's a contradiction. It doesn't even add up. You can't say that you pride or appreciative on your living and the having the blessing of being alive, but yet you disregard the life of another. It doesn't add up. And we're not talking about legitimate reasons for murder. You understand? Legitimate reasons for things to happen. We're not talking about that, because there are circumstances which are legitimate for something to take place. We're not talking about that. We're talking about unjustifiable murder. Do you understand? One of the leading causes for it. The Sheikh, he says, continuing, he says, فَإِذَا رَأَيْتَ مَا تَعْلَمْ مِنْ نَفْسِكَ أَنَّهُ يُؤَدِّي بِكَ إِلَى غَضَبٍ فَحَدِيثُ دَلَ عَلَى أَنْ تَنْتَهِي عَنْهُ مِنْ أَوَّلِهِ. So if you see from yourself and you know those things that will bring you on the brink of rage, you know that, and it would drive you to go, if you know that, then what you supposed to do? Then the hadith is indicating here that you supposed to tantahi anhu min awwali, from the beginning. You're supposed to seek to end it. You don't supposed to allow yourself to get in, because the Prophet said, it says, for marat al-reward. The Prophet repeated this 3 times to the man. La taghdab, la taghdab, la taghdab. Telling the man not to become angry, not to become angry, not to become angry, because anger. And for those who don't know, the Prophet ﷺ, he himself will only allow his anger to manifest itself in the time when it was going against the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it was going against the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or something that was those things which Allah has prohibited, that's when he will allow himself his anger to manifest. But anything that comes personally to himself, he will ward off that anger. Now look at that prophetic guidance there. Anger is an emotion that all of us share. We all have it. But the Prophet will make a distinguish. If it's something that's going against him personally, he will curb his anger. He will repress his anger. He will restrain his anger. But if it's something that's going against that which of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that's when he will manifest that anger. You understand? So here he is protecting himself. Because if he is angry on behalf of his Lord, you understand? And he's drove to do an action on behalf of his Lord, then that is praiseworthy because it was on behalf of his creator and it wasn't on behalf of himself. This is why repressing the anger is something that's very, very important. So you might say, all of this information you're giving right now, brother, is for people who are Muslims. That's what you might say. How do I get my teenage son or my teenage nephew to understand this when he don't even practice Islam? How do I get him to understand what you're talking about? How do I get him to understand that controlling his anger can prevent him from a lifetime of chaos? How do you do that? Because you have to instill, and this is something that we don't do a lot, you have to instill the need for prayer. And I know you might say, where are you coming from with this? Most of the youth don't pray. You understand? Prayer is a direct line from you and the Creator. Period. Prayer is that direct line. If you cut that off, you have severed the line that you need to have to your Creator. What keeps you in balance, what keeps you in check is that direct line. Do you understand? This is what Allah Jalla says in the Quran, Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. And no doubt, unjustified murder is munkar. And no doubt, unjustifiable murder is munkar. That Allah said, indeed, the prayer itself prevents the individual from fahsha'i wal munkar. So if Allah is telling us that prayer itself is this strong of an agent, that it deters you from and keeps you away and prevents you from certain things, then this is something that you need to instill in the youth. The need for prayer. The understanding of prayer. And if they have that in their lives, if they can hold on to that understanding, then they will realize that just like that connection they have with the Creator, the person they want to kill is also a servant of that Creator. Do you understand? The person they want to actually annihilate, to eliminate, take them off the board, to remove them, because there's no coming back off of that, then that person also has a Lord. And that person also was gifted with life. But if they don't have meaning in their lives and they believe that they're demons and that they live in hell because they don't have the celebrity life or they don't have what they think they're entitled to have, and they neglect everything else that they have. The fact that you were born and you got 2 eyes, 2 hands, 10 toes, 10 fingers, a heart, a mouth, you can beat, you can eat, huh? That's richness. I don't understand. That was something that was gifted to you without you doing, period. But if they not made to understand the fadl of that, the virtue of that in and of itself is a blessing. If you go out your whole entire lives and you never reached the mark of making so much money in your life, you never did this, you never did that, you are already rich because of what you have. If you can breathe, you can walk, you can think, you can function, that itself is blessing. But if you don't regard that as that, and you're not taught to regard that as that, then you're going to make every problem that you have seem like it's magnified. You're going to believe and you're going to convince yourself that you were in hell. You were nowhere near hell. Not what Allah described the hellfire to be in the Quran. Not what the Prophet described the hellfire to be in authentic Sunnah. This is no comparison. You have never even tasted hell, but you have convinced yourself that you have, and that you are a demon. So when you want to connect with them, what happens? They can't hear that. I don't got time for that right now. I got to make it happen every which way. That's the problem. You didn't have to make it happen when you was inside the womb. 9 months, who you think was feeding? You didn't have to make it happen when you came out. Who do you think was taking care of you? You didn't have to make it happen then. But now you got to make it happen. This is what you have convinced yourself. You have to make it happen. You ain't been in control since the moment you were born. Period. I don't know who told you you were, but you weren't in control. But that's why they're not getting it, man. It's not processing in their mind because they don't understand this is not instilled in them. Period. So they disregard life. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be those who encourage others to realize the value of life itself. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be of those who can control our anger and a state of rage, that we don't allow ourselves to lose control. Because the moment we lose control, what happened? SubhanAllah azim. Last but not least, I cannot give this whole hadith. I'm just going to give some remedies he mentioned here. And he brings some of the stuff I was just talking about. He says that if you give into anger, all of these many things have occurred because of anger. Divorce, we see the results of anger. We see that a person have destroyed himself, or he could have destroyed his family, or divorce could have happened. He said, anything that resembles that. And he says, how many people who are siblings, brothers and sisters, who don't speak to each other to this day? How many people who are family members? How many people who are, parents, children, who don't speak to each other till this day? Do you understand that? That's huge. I don't talk to my father. I don't speak to my father. That's the root issue of that is anger. Regardless of what took place, you still cannot get past your anger. It calls you to sever ties. Do you understand that? That if your time is up, you never get the chance to reconcile that. How do you think that works? That weighs heavy. But we don't think about the consequences of this. It doesn't matter because we are in our anger. And when you in your anger, sometimes you can have what they call righteous indignation. You understand? Sometimes you can convince yourself that you're justifiable in being angry. That the right was with you. Regardless of what happened, the right was with you. This is why the Prophet ﷺ commanded us to keep the ties. This is why Allah has commanded us to keep the ties and not to sever the ties. It's important to understand that. Family structure is very important. But if you don't hold no value to that stuff, it goes right out the door. He says here, and he said that no doubt giving into one's anger is something that is dispraiseworthy. But women was the shaitan, and it's from the means of the shaitan. These are the wasa'il of the shaitan. So if you calling yourself a demon, hey, that's from the shaitan. You want to resemble the shaitan? I'm a demon. For real? I mean, it sounds cute. At the end of the day, I'm a demon. Really? That's what you are? You a demon? Okay, do you know what demons actually are? Do you know what they consist of? Do you know where their abode is at? You understand that? These demons are those who are cursed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no demons that's going to be in any paradise that I know of, period. It's not happening. So why do you want to resemble yourself to that? Because you have convinced yourself that this is the way? This is the shaitan making fear seem to you something that should be actually repugnant to you. He says, لإحداث فرق بين المؤمنين وإشاعة الفحشاء وحرمات فيما بينهم. And anger have caused a separation to discord, a separation between the believers. You can't even deal with your brother or your sister no more because you're angry. And it don't allow you to look at justice because you're not going to be self-conscious enough to say, let me go back and realize, was it really my fault? Am I really justified to be angry to this point? Can I not reconcile this situation? You don't even want to review it. So you allow that anger to cause that wall between you. You understand? We have to really, really, really wake up and really wake up. He said, جاء في السنة أحاديث كثيرة في علاج الغضب نجملها في الآتي. So he says it comes in the Quran and many ahadith, in the Sunnah. He says it comes in the Sunnah, many ahadith that deals how to cure anger, how to treat anger. All right? And he said we have gathered them together, or we could put them in concise here, in the following. First, one of the beautiful treatments for anger, and I want you to understand this is beautiful here, is yu'aliju bil wudu. So some people don't understand the bounty of wudu. You're about to understand it now. The fadl of wudu, brothers and sisters, is that it repels anger. Why? Because your blood is boiling. You're hot. All right? You're enraged. How do you extinguish fire? You extinguish fire with water. So if you burning up, what's the best thing for you to do? Is to put some water to cool off. This is wudu. Wudu actually has that. And it has an immediate result. You understand it? It calms you down. It soothes you. Now, we're not talking about a person who doesn't make wudu properly anyway. Doesn't even understand it or how to make wudu. We're talking about someone who understands it. It cools you off, calm you down, give you a chance to think. Because when you're angry and you can't think, you react. And that's never a good situation. When you're moving off pure emotion and just reacting and not thinking things through, what happens? You always end up in the bad end. Even it's always going to work out bad for you. So if you allow yourself to cool off, to simmer down, you can think. And the moment you can do that, the moment focus come back in. Now you can see things as they really are. Well, I don't really gonna have to go to that situation. I probably blew up a little bit. Matter of fact, I might just don't deal with this person on that. I know my level here. I know I can't go here. And these things actually help you out in the long run. Okay, he says here, لِأَنَّهُ فِيهِ فَوْرًا, and we talked about that because this is an immediate results that's contained within the wudu. He says, وَالْوُضُوءُ فِيهِ تَبْرِيد. Wudu have coolness in it. All right, they have what we call coolness. Wudu has what we call coolness. Okay, he says, وَلِأَنَّ غَضَبْ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ, anger is from shaitan. We're not talking about, don't get this confused. The Creator gave us all the ability to become angry. That's not from the shaitan. He's talking about the anger of a state of rage. Okay? The anger that it calls you to do things that's regrettable. Okay? That's the anger he's talking about. He's not talking about regular emotional anger. All right? He's talking about the fact that you allow the anger to go above that state. And that there can be attributed to the shaitan and not to the Creator. That there is contributed to the shaitan because the Creator doesn't want you to do something, that is detrimental to yourself or to others or to destroy your soul. That's not the way that the Creator operates. He says, وَوُضُوء فِي اسْتِقَالَةٍ لِلَّهِ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى وَالتَّعَبُّدْ لَهُ وَهُوَ يُسَكِّنْ غَضَبْ فَمِنْ غَضَبْ يَشْرَعُ لَهُ وُضُوء. So wudu contains in it that aid and assistance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it allows the servant to worship him via it, and it becomes a thing that, what it does, it calms down the person who's angry. So whoever is angry, then it's legislated for him to do wudu. That's one remedy we can do. So you might say, brother, so-and-so is not Muslim. I can't tell them to make wudu. Okay, tell them to go to the sink when they get angry and to run some water over their face. Put it on their hands and run the water over their face. If they still feel like they're angry, tell them to keep doing that with the water until they simmer down. It'll work. Even if they don't do the whole wudu. Even if they're not Muslims, if they're in a state of anger, they're in a state of anger and they are angry to that point, then you should direct them to cool off. Go run some water on yourself. This is just one remedy. But I'll give us another one from the Sunnah that shows us about how to deal with anger. He says, secondly, إذا غضب إنسان كان قائما فعليه أن يقعد وهذا من علاج آثر الغضب لأنه يسكن نفسه. Pay attention. So another thing that comes in the Sunnah is that when a person is angry and they're standing up, then it is advised that the person who is angry that they should sit down. What does this do for the person? If you are in a state of rage and you're standing up and you sit down, this is a moment to allow yourself to calm down. You're standing, you can sit. When you sit, you can start to what? Breathe. Start to think. You see that? This is remedies that actually can be applied, and they're real effective measures. This is not something that someone is just saying and throwing it out there. No, it actually works. Just try it. It works. You sit down. Don't stand up while you're angry. Don't allow your legs to move this way or that way. Don't allow your hands to move this way or that way. Sit down. Remember, the moment that you are angry is the moment that your judgment is off. The moment that your focus is off. The moment that your thoughts are clouded. So you have to get back to reason. How do you do that? You gotta simmer down. You understand that? So one of the remedies is what? Is to sit down. And he brings this from the hadith that is collected by Abu Dawood and Ahmed and Tabarani, where the Prophet said, "In the ghadab min shaitan." He said, "Indeed, anger is from the shaitan. When the shaitan khuliqa min an-nar." And we know that the shaitan was created from what? From fire, because he's a jinn. وَإِنَّمَا تُطْفَأُ النَّارُ بِالْمَاءِ. The Prophet said, and we know that fire is only put out or extinguished with water. فَإِذَا غَضِبَ أَحَدُكُمْ فَلْيَتَوَضَّأْ. And if one of you are what? If one of you are angry, then allow that person to what? Offer wudu. Thirdly, and يسعى في قومه وابداله بالكلام حسن لمن قدر على ذلك. So this is contingent on the person who has the ability to do this one. And this is a remedy where instead of giving in to your anger, then what you want to do is redirect it. You want to try your best to restrain it. All right, so this is where it's going to show your control at. And this goes along with the hadith we mentioned earlier, that the Prophet said that the strong one is not the one who can wrestle, but the one who can what? يَمْلِكُ نَفْسَهُ عِنْدَ غَضَبٍ. The one who can control himself or herself in the state of anger. So what you want to do in this case, you want to try to rush to do what? To repel it, restrain that anger. And you want to exchange the evil thoughts or the evil words that might emanate from you into good words at that time. And this is only for the one whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the ability to be able to do it. And anger does require a person to have some patience. Fourthly, he mentioned, he says, "And yaskut, remain quiet. Don't talk. Because you don't want to regret something or say something afterwards which you regret. Remain quiet. Don't even say nothing. Remain quiet." So if you look at it, there are 4 steps you can do. And I wouldn't say just do one in exclusion of other. I would say do all 4. You're in a state of anger or state of rage, put some water on yourself. If you're Muslim, make wudu. Secondly, don't stand, sit down. Thirdly, restrain yourself. Because at this moment, the calmness is coming in. You're getting back to that reasoning. You're getting back to that focus. And now you're actually landing in reality. So when you do that, you go ahead and what? Exchange it for those good words. And do it. And last but not least, you remain quiet. You don't have nothing to say at this moment. Why? Because you are practicing what we call self-control. What separates you from the animals? What separates you from the animals? You understand? You have practicing self-control. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to take from this prophetic advice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to understand that these things are happening. You will be tried and tested throughout your life. Things will happen. You will lose loved ones. You understand? Certain things will happen. People will test you, man, on a daily basis. Road rage is real. You're in a car, you drive, you got your family in a car, someone cuts you off illegally. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to drive. It's nonsense. You're trying to get here, you're trying to get there, and the whole while your blood just starts to boil. Then that person flickers you or throw the finger up or something like that, say something to you, and then you come back and then it's just you in the heat of the moment. You understand? You're in the heat of the moment. It's your job to realize at this point, anger isn't your friend. At this point, your number one enemy is not the person who's running off at the mouth or calling you all types of names in a road rage or this or that. The enemy is your anger. And you have to realize that now I have to control myself. It doesn't make you weak. You are actually stronger than the individual who's sitting on the other side waiting to pull the trigger. Because he or she can't figure out life. They don't understand the value of life. So they think to solve a problem is taking someone's life. Or to do, I got this, I can do that. Like, come on. If that makes you feel as though you got some type of power, then you lost. You lost. The strong power is going to be in what? It's going to be in the simple fact that you can control yourself. That you can move and can control yourself. And that makes you a strong individual. That makes you an individual who doesn't blow with the wind. Do you understand? You're not allowing your emotions to move you here or there. You're allowing your reasons to move you here or there. Do you understand? This is why it's important for us to instill in our youth the love for prayer, the love for the connection, and to also, we have to dismantle the narrative. These children running around here with they fairy tales, they fables. Do not allow your child or your nephew or your cousin to run around here thinking like they live in hell, because they don't live in hell. And this little narrative that they keep spinning, that I'm not in a worse situation, a predicament, it's all I got left to me. No, that's what you told yourself. You understand? That's what you have convinced yourself, because what you want to believe in. That's a bubble. We're going to burst that. No, you can break out of those things if you break out of them mentally, if you break out of them spiritually. You can break out of those things and you can become something. Yes, there are certain roadblocks, there are certain things, there is classifications within the society you live in. There are certain groups of people who are this. Yes, that's true. But it still doesn't stop your day-to-day life. It still doesn't stop you moving forward or to become something of yourself that you can be proud. Because becoming something of yourself got nothing to do with materialistic things or outward things. It comes inwardly. No one can come to you and say, "Look, I made you happy, and now you're happy." That doesn't work. I don't know where you get that from. You understand? No one can come to you and say, "I made you happy." No, happiness comes here within, and it comes with the understanding of your purpose. So if you don't have that here, you're not going to get it from anywhere else. That's just temporary pleasure. That's just a desire that you have will fade. And once it fades, you back to the same old person you were. Yeah, you're miserable. Now you this. But if you had it here, you're relating it. You actually understand. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to do that. Whatever we said that was incorrect in our translation was from ourselves. Thank you all for tuning in, inshallah ta'ala, and listening to this beautiful talk from the Shaykh. May Allah reward him. And also from the speech of Allah Azza wa Jal, and from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that we can understand how to deal with youth and trying to repel this murder that is going on at an all-time rate, and trying to connect to the youth. Don't just wipe them out, man. Don't just throw them out there and say they nothing, or it's just on them. No, the youth really need to be reached. Start them off and instill in them faith, prayer. Have the love for prayer, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.